Do you desire to be confident? And I'm meaning like having an unshakable confidence that's independent of the success you've had in the past, or the successes you'll have in the future, of the failures you'll have coming up. Do you desire to have worth and a self-worth that is independent of how other people are treating you, or independent if people of the opposite gender are attracted to you? You desire to be loved. And I mean loved unconditionally. If you can admit to yourself that you have any of these desires, or even have other desires that you don't feel like are being fulfilled, I think you're really going to benefit from watching this video. For most of elementary school, I felt like a pretty average person. I was not the most popular at any point, usually not the least popular. I just didn't really stick out all that much. But I wanted to be known and I wanted to have this value, and I always still felt very compared to people, so I was trying to kind of move up the social hierarchy, but not seemingly getting anywhere. So eventually later in elementary school, I start to find these avenues for where I can find worth. And I go through on a little different path. So initially that was in modeling and singing stuff, but eventually progressing through middle school and high school, I get to this point where I'm desiring worth so badly and not finding it. And it was the summer after my junior year that you might call it a pretty dark time, just in where I was looking for worth, because I needed this validation for women, or I thought that this validation I was going to find that would fulfill me was going to be from proving to myself and proving to other people that girls like me. So that summer, I ended up kissing or making out with 20 different girls. About that. Me and my friend had counted at one point. It's really not a number I'm proud of. At the time that we counted this number, I thought that this was some representation of my worth, and everyone seemed to be kind of basing it on that. But the sad thing is that I was not getting anything of what I actually wanted, because I was enslaved to this desire I had. I continually had to keep going back to it. If I was not seemingly having women attracted to me, then I was feeling very depressed. I thought I was having to change things about myself, and from thing to thing, I kept going. I thought that in spending time with these different girls and in going to these parties and doing a lot of other things, that I was going to fulfill this longing that I had. It's important to recognize that while that was a very dark time in my life, and I never seemed to find the thing I was looking for in all those years, I was searching for something. And it's interesting. So there's the story of the woman at the well, and I'm very drawn to it in some ways, because in some ways I think we all relate to it. And I'm reading this book called Broken Gods right now. It talks about how the strength of her desires is very important to recognize, because she's searching to fulfill this longing that she has. So she's had 5 different husbands, and at this point in the story, she's living with the guy that isn't her husband, but still not having what she wants. She's having to keep going back to these things and not finding it. And Jesus tells her, he is this living water. And what is this living water he's talking about? It's the fulfillment of all of her desires and her longings that she's had. And what he's wanting to do is to make her whole, so that she's not having to go back to all these different sources of whatever it would be. And in the same way, for each one of us, he doesn't want us to have to go to these other people for this worth that we have. He wants us to have a confidence that's actually unshakable, that's fully independent of what we're doing, of what we've done, of what we've done in the future. It's fully based in the identity that we have as children of our Heavenly Father. Now, this seems like a very abstract idea, and it's commonly talked about, this living water. But practically, what does this look like for my life? So eventually, I do get to this point where I like to think I've drank from the living water, or I've had this water coming up from within me. And what this is it's not ultimately sourced into myself, but it's not having to go outwardly looking in the world for it. And so eventually, I'm sitting in this chapel, and all of a sudden, I'm receiving, or in a sense drinking from, this worth that doesn't go away. I'm understanding, I'm starting to know and have confidence in saying who I am. And even at these points in my life, when I start to have this confidence, I literally had nothing to show for it. I'm a big fan of, in the book Resisting Happiness, how he talks about resistance. And a resistance that so many people have is to daily prayer. A lot of people seem to go looking for other solutions for everything that is not prayer. But prayer is the source of all that we do, in a sense. So we strive to live lives of prayer where everything we do is as a prayer to God. But in having this direct communication with God, and in reading the Bible, and having dedicated time for silence, where we allow God to speak in the silence of our own hearts. It's important to acknowledge that as you're moving forward, that these longings and desires that you have are good. So don't try to suppress them. And I'm excited to see what happens in your life once you start to make this dedication a daily prayer. As always, I do want to encourage you to like and subscribe to our Facebook and YouTube page. I'm excited again for the things we have coming out. Again, there actually will be a few awesome, incredible people that I admire that will be in upcoming videos.